What's up, guys? Julian here with another daily for you. This one is going to be a lot more specific. This is my red, white, blue tempo primer, I guess you could call it. Basically, I'm going to go through each of my matchups, talk a little bit about them, and talk about how I sideboard for each of the matchups as well for the current list that I have for red, white, blue tempo. This is my favorite deck I've played so far in New Standard. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I wrote about it in an article. Talked about it as well before, about how I was really mad because the Japanese came up with it, and I thought I was so clever because I found the list, and then Todd Anderson did well, and it is becoming more and more of a thing. I think it's catching on slowly, which is very strange. I don't feel like I have any very bad matchups. Maybe against blue-white humans. That matchup is Azorius Aggro, a little bit tough. But I have great matchups against all the popular decks right now, so I definitely recommend it. Now, this format for this video is like I did for my pre-release report, where I got the camera up high and I'm talking about the cards. I'd like to know if you guys like this format, or if you prefer it in like an article, or type it out, write it down. Give me some feedback on it. But anyway, I hope you get some in-depth analysis and some ideas into how this deck plays. The deck is awesome, it's powerful, it's fun, and it's also pretty challenging to play, which I like. It's not super mindless. Sometimes it is, but when you just go Geist, Angel, Hellkite, and just kill them. But like a lot of times it's not. You have to make a lot of decisions and think a lot of plays out. So I hope you enjoy and give me some feedback, and I'll see you on the turnaround. Okay, and this is Blue, White, Red Tempo. This deck is awesome. So the idea behind it is that it has awesome creatures that are very efficient. And then it just kills you and it counters everything you do. Oh, this should be not here. This should be over here. Sorry. So for those watching, which should be everybody, this is my sideboard right here and over. This is the sideboard. This is the main deck. The lands I just couldn't fit on here, but the lands are pretty basic. It's 4 of every blue, white, red land. 4 of all of them. 4 Clifftop, 4 Glacial, 4 Sulphur Falls, 4 of each of the shock lands. And then you have 1 island, which is there. You have 1 mountain, which is somewhere. Oh, and then 1 Moorland Haunt. What the? Oh, and then 1 mountain. There it is. No, you have 2 Moorland Haunt. You should have 2 Moorland Haunt. There it is. Yeah. 2 Moorland Haunt. 1 island, 1 mountain, and then 4 of every other land. 24 lands. Now, there's one thing you have to be careful with this deck. Your creatures, while they are powerful, they're fast, right? But they're not. People make this error. They say that these creatures are like better than any other creatures, and they're not, right? Like you don't get 2-for-1s out of these creatures the same way that you do with like Dagtusk and Huntmaster of the Fells, Olivia to a degree, even Borderland Ranger, where they're actually netting cards. Unless you're angeling a Snapcaster Mage, you're really not doing that with this deck. What you're doing is you are sticking creatures that are cheap, like a Geist Trapped, and then you're not letting them do anything else, right? So against Jund, if I can stick a turn 3 Geist Trapped, then I can untap, and I know if they cast a Huntmaster, I have Pillar of Flames, and I have things like that. I can then counter their Thragtusks. The idea is that you race, right? That you're trying to kill them as fast as possible while still countering all their stuff. And this is not. I mean, people think it's not as fast as like a red deck, but let me just tell you guys something, right? Let's say you get the nut draw. Let's say you're on the play and you're playing against some control deck, right? And on turn 3 they have a tap land. They can't counter, right? If on turn 3 you play Geist Draft, okay? On turn 4 you swing, you hit them for 6, play a land. At the end of their turn you play an Angel, then you untap and you play a Hellkite, and they're dead. And that's it. Turn 5, kill. It just takes 3, 4, 5. That's all it takes. 2 combat phases, because this is 6. So they're at 14, and then this is going to be 9 plus 5 is 14. So that's it, 2 turns, and they're dead. So look out for that, especially if you're playing against a control deck or something where they can't gain life, or they just can't counter your stuff, at least not efficiently. You can kill them in 2 turns. Sometimes people don't see that when they're playing this deck. They don't see that they can actually kill them really quickly when they need to. And that's how I usually end up killing people, is I will, I'll slow down. I'll play reserved. I don't run the Geist on 3 every time. It depends on the deck they're playing, right? Against like an aggro deck, I don't play Geist on 3 very often. I play it on 5 usually, so that I have enough mana up to counter things or to kill things. And then Geist races everything, right? I mean, Geist, within reason, Geist is like a 3-turn clock, because it's 18 damage in 3 turns. And yeah, sure, I mean, hopefully you get the extra 2 in like a Pillar, Spear, you could Snapcaster, some way, you'll get 2 more damage in. So let's talk about down here. So you have the 4 Pillar Flame, 3 Searing Spears, which are awesome, 2 Unsummons, which are just great. The Unsummons, people forget that you can bounce your own guys. So like I used to side these out against control decks, and I started realizing, oh no, like if they cast a Supreme Verdict, I just bounce my guy, I just pick him up, and then the Supreme Verdict did nothing. Right? That's a really good way to use Unsummon. So I keep him in all the time now. And then you have 3 Azorius Charm, 2 Izzet Charm. This is something I had debated about for a while. For a long time, I've just been playing 4 Azorius Charms, and this was something else, like another counterspell. I ended up, I want to try this out with 2 Izzet Charms. Now, I actually haven't played it with 2 Izzet Charms yet. But of course, the Japanese list had 2 Izzet Charm, 2 Azorius Charm, and 3 Detention Sphere, right? So it's not like it's brand new tech. I'm just trying to see if I want to go back to it. I really like the Izzet Charm in the right situation. Against decks like Zombies and Aggro decks, you have enough burn and bounce. You literally just want to counter and burn everything they have. So I also wondered about that. Like a Zombies deck could go turn 1, the 2/2 with Unleash, the 1/1 with Unleash, make it a 2/2 the Cackler, and I had a Pillar in my hand, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I Pillar that, I don't know if I wait for a Gravecrawler. I just Pillar it now. I just Pillar it, get it out of the way. And then the next turn they play like a Botleth Troll, and I Izzet Charm it. Assuming I have Izzet Charm or a Searing Spear, or I let them attack, and then I Azorius Charm it, right? And then they play like a Draws Messenger, hopefully I can Snapcast or Pillar that thing. And then play Aristocrat and I counter it, right? Like, you just want to stop everything. If you have a choice against an aggro deck between playing a creature or holding up Counterspell and Burn, I hold every time. Unless you get a read, right? Magic isn't a 100% game. Like, you don't do the same thing every single time. But in general, I'll hold it. And I'll wait to counter things. Or burn things. And then I just wait until they have 1 card in hand or no cards in hand. And then I just go to town. I just slam a Geist and I just kill him. Like I said before, I use these. Geist, untap, then do this and this, and just kill him. That's the idea. Don't forget also that Hellkite can block if he has to. So if they have angels of their own, I played a Hellkite once, or not very often, but once or twice I played a Hellkite. And that wasn't an angel because I would have tapped it. I can't remember what I did. I played the Hellkite and I didn't attack with it because I had to block something. Maybe a key rune. Anyway, don't forget he can block, but he's really powerful obviously when he's attacking. 2 Detention Spheres are just great. These are awesome against Entreat the Angels. So if they cast Entreat for 1,000,000, you let that resolve. You untap, you play your Sphere, and if they counter your Sphere, then you counter back. Now the sideboard is pretty basic. Oh, I guess, wait, before we go to the sideboard, the counter spells, right? So the Japanese list had 4 Dissipates, 2 Essence Scatters. Then Todd Anderson's list had 4 Syncopates and 2 Essence Scatters. And I don't know which one I like better. They're all awesome. So I have right now 2, 2, and 2. That could be wrong, but it's done really well for me so far. And then plus the 2 Izzet Charms, which are also pseudo counter spells. So, oh, it's Halloween. I bet you guys can hear that out there, huh? So anyway, so that's awesome. So let's go to the sideboard. So I have the 2 Purify the Graves, which is for the sorry guys. So the 2 Purify the Graves are for graveyard decks, obviously Zombies and then Reanimator, as well, and then the Dungeon Geist are for Thragtusk. It's basically what they're there for. It's just Thragtusk. But so many decks play him that I have a lot of spots for him. Dissipates are just for the control decks and for the Reanimator decks, because against Reanimator you really need to dissipate their things, like their angels and their, because like if you counter an angel and then they just play another angel and get the first one back, then you really done nothing. Dissipate is really important there. Sundering Growth, that's what it's called. They're fine. I don't use them very often, but they're really good against Detention Spheres. I have yet to cast a Sundering Growth while a Geist Angel is in play, but I can imagine it'd be really sweet. I just have yet to have that happen to me. Thought Flare is really good against the control decks. I thought about making that a Sphinx's Revelation instead, but Thought Flare's fine. To be honest, I have a buddy who's borrowing all of my Sphinx's Revelations, and so I don't have any right now, so I have this instead. But it's still really good. Counterflex is for the control decks, as well as sometimes against the Gen decks, which I talk about in a little bit later. But Counterflex is really good against control decks because a lot of times I notice with this deck, especially game 2, the control decks will just play around your counterspells. So what they'll do is, like, if they have a Jace, they'll usually wait till turn 6 to cast Jace, or turn 7 to cast Tameo. While that sounds like it's really far in the future, unless you get the aggro drop, which is only, 8 cards, then really you're not doing anything on those turns either. And they will, and maybe like I'll cast like just a Geist, right? And then they'll play Tameo, and they'll have 3 up or 2 mana up, and then I'll Dissipate, and then they'll just negate the Dissipate. And then I can't fight the counter war. I don't have enough mana to fight the counter war. So I started bringing in Counterflex, because then I just don't worry about it, right? So like my opponent miracles and entreat the angels, pays for everything except for 2, so he can negate my counterspell, and I just Counterflex it. And then I'm like, whatever, flip them off, you know. I just counterspell it, and I mean counterflex it, and they can't counter back. So that's really sweet. That works really well. I played it in the game day, and I was very surprised with how good that card was. So I am very impressed with it, and I'm going to keep it going forward. And last, we have the 3 Supreme Verdicts. These are against all those aggro decks running around. The scariest matchup I've seen with this deck is against the blue-white humans, the Azorius aggro deck. That deck was very powerful, especially because they have their own Geist Saint tracked. And so Supreme Verdict is very good against that deck. It's also very good against mono red and the green-white humans and Naya. And I mean, it's really good against everything except for like maybe it's not great against Direct Tusk, but you can still play it. And it's not good against zombies. It's okay against zombies. I usually don't end up bringing it in because like zombies really want spot removal. But yeah, so this is kind of the deck. The deck is so good. Oops, I don't know what I just flicked. What is this? Oh, it's a turn. I've been very happy with it. I mean, I play I play a lot of games where I'm like, you know, this is just unfair. Like, I'm just crushing. I love it. I'm gonna keep playing it for a long time until there's a better deck, right? If there's a better deck that comes out, I'll play that deck. The only experience I don't have a lot of experience playing this deck against Reanimator. I have some, but not a lot, and I don't have any experience on the mirror. So I'm hoping to gain that experience in the next couple of days. I've been preparing for the PTQ season, which is sealed, so I haven't been playing as much against the mirror. I haven't been testing as much, but I've been playing just in tournaments and stuff, and it's been doing great for me. It's been doing great. I highly recommend it to anybody who wants to play a very unfair deck. You have to really understand the deck, though, because you have to know when it's correct to aggro them out and when it's correct not to. So, like, for example, sometimes against control decks, I'll play like a turn 2 Snapcaster Mage. It's pretty rare, but I'll do it sometimes. End of your turn, Snapcaster Mage, right? And I did that in game day, and I took a guy to 8. I took a guy to 8 life with him before he finally had to answer him because he didn't want to tap out ever. And I just kept boom, boom every turn. And then he finally took care of it, and then I just like double angeled or I don't know, something ridiculous, and I just killed him. It was Angel and then like Searing Spirit Pillar. It was awesome. So I highly recommend the deck. Play it, win, and let me know how it goes, okay? Okay, so first up on our list is Zombies. Now, Zombies has several different iterations depending on the deck. We have like our Golgari Zombies, which are just full of creatures and just trying to kill you, like beat you down, have really efficient, powerful creatures. Red-Black Zombies, which are like Rakdos Zombies, which is more about aggro and like burning you out and being able to top deck really well. And then Jund Zombies, which is kind of like a mix of both, I guess. Jund Zombies isn't very popular anymore. Now, the sideboard's actually different for the 2 decks, for Jund Zombies and for, I mean Golgari Zombies and Rakdos Zombies. So for Golgari Zombies, they don't have as many burn spells. They don't have as many ways to top deck you. For example, Falkenrath Aristocrat, Brimstone Volley, Searing Spear, even Bump of the Night. They just play a lot of good creatures. But they're still playing, you know, Cavern of Souls. The counter spells are not as strong as they could be. But against the Golgari Zombies, basically against them both, this is against them both, you're definitely going to want to bring in your 2 Purify the Graves. And against those 2 decks, the things you want to take out, you want to take out your big counter spells. Probably I would take out the Dissipates against the Golgari Zombies, and leave in the Syncopates. Because Syncopate you're able to counter on turn 2 if you need to. It's a good argument though, because later on, when they're top decking, you want Dissipate, not Syncopate. But the difference is, if they're top decking, you're probably in full control. So you're probably fine like that. I would keep the Syncopates, Essence Scatters, Izzet Charms. And I would just bring in the 2 Dissipates. And to be honest, that's about it. The problem with bringing in Supreme Verdict, the problem with bringing this card in against the Golgari Zombies, is they have Lotleth Troll, they have Dread Mangler, and of course they have Gravecrawler, like always. And these are just, and Supreme Verdict is just not good against those cards. It's actually like, yeah, it's just awful against those cards a lot of times because you're killing some of your own guys and you're not getting anything back. Now, I had tried bringing in Dungeon Geists at one time. My big issue is they just kill it. And all of a sudden it was 4 mana to do really nothing. Because they have their ultimate prices. They're all running ultimate price or murders nowadays. So the Dungeon Geist is just not where I want it to be. There's not really anything else I thought about bringing in this matchup. So I just really like this. I like just going Purify the Graves for Dissipates. Maybe you could bring in a Supreme Verdict or 2 if they have Desecration Demons, maybe. But even then, you have your Unsummons and your Azorius Charms and your Detention Spheres to deal with those creatures once they're on the board. But that's about it for Golgari Zombies. Now, as far as Rakdos Zombies go, I would keep these in. And it's really tough again, but probably You know, probably keep it exactly the same. Now, of course, it depends on what you see, right? But I would probably just keep this the same. You keep the Essence Scatters because most of the time their caverns are going to be on zombie, and if they are on zombie, then their aristocrats can be countered. But Falcon Wrath Aristocrat is like the big thing here. We have to watch out for that card. Every time they have 4 mana, you gotta be really careful. You gotta have your unsummon ready, or if you have kill spells, you gotta have 2, right? So that if they sack a guy, you can try and kill him again in response. If they have 2 guys to sacrifice, then you're just in big trouble. Either way, I would keep in the Purify the Graves for like the Geralt Messengers, Grave Crawlers, Bump of the Knights if they have them. I would still keep the 2 Purify the Graves in. But other than that, your main deck is very well suited against zombies. You have your Unsummons to temple them out. Of course, your Azorius Charms to temple them out again. Pillar of Flames, which just crush their deck. Spearing Spears, which are awesome. And Detention Spears, which are great as well. Except for against Abrupt Decay. You know, so against Golgari, just be careful. But sometimes you still have to do it. Other than that, the deck is great against zombies. So, and zombies is not as popular as it was because of decks like this one. Zombies is not as good because every deck is running 4 Pillar Flames, so it's just, I mean, I've talked about it before, but it's just not quite as good. Now, the aggro decks, I kind of lump them all together, not counting zombies, right? So that's blue-white humans, green-white humans, Naya aggro, mono-red. They're basically, to me, they're basically all the same deck, which is where your counter spells are weak and your destruction spells are strong. Now your dungeon guys are not quite as strong against the aggro decks because they have so many efficient creatures, right? So if they go like Champion of Perish, Thalia, double Champion of Perish, something nuts like that, your dungeon guys really isn't going to be doing much. It taps one of their guys, it can't tap a bunch. It's just not quite as good as you want it to be. But of course, we bring in the Supreme Verdict. Supreme Verdict is key against these decks. Essence Scatters stay in. I would take out Dissipates, and I would take out Syncopates. Counterspells, I guess we could leave in like 1 Syncopate. Counterspells are just not as strong against these decks. Now, probably you leave in the Essence Scatters because they're usually still not running Cavern. Or if they are, then that kind of stinks. If you see a bunch of Caverns, I don't know, you probably still keep it in because still the creatures are different because Geist is trapped and then other humans, you know, they're just different. War Falcon, hopefully you don't have to Essence Scatter a War Falcon. But again, the principle is the same, that you're killing and templing their guys while you have more powerful creatures than they do. That's the idea, right? Like I said in the deck primer, it's all about that. It's all about killing and templing their guys while you have better creatures. So I would just bring in the Supreme Verdicts and I would just take out 3 counterspells. If they're running Runechanter's Pike, then potentially you could cut like these as well to bring in 2 Abundant Growths, or whatever this card is called. I have it in Spanish. Growth, I don't know, whatever that is. Breaking Growth. You could do something like that. That would be fine as well if they're running Key Runes or if they're running Runechanter's Pike. But other than that, I would do just what I said, just the Supreme Verdicts for counter spells. Everything else stays about the same. Jund midrange. Jund midrange is, I think, what this deck is built for. I feel like I have a great matchup against Jund midrange. You'll notice again, a lot of my cards just don't come in. My main deck is just so powerful. I'm only separating a couple of cards in. But against Jund midrange, I definitely bring in Dungeon Geists. Like, absolutely, I bring in Dungeon Geists. And usually, I'll take out my Azorius Charms for the Dungeon Geists. I'll take out 3 Azorius Charms, I'll bring in 3 Dungeon Geists like that. Dungeon Geist is basically against any Thragtusk you see. He's just awesome. If they have Q Runes, you could bring in your Abundant Growths, or whatever these are called again. Sorry, I don't know the names. But it's tough because I don't know what I would want to take out. Probably if you brought these in, I would take out the Izzet Charms. Against Jund, your most powerful, well, some of your most powerful cards are the counter spells. There's an argument, you could argue to bring in like another Dissipate or 2, like maybe in place of Detention Sphere, although I don't know if I'd do that because of things like Liliana. But you could, right? You could take out Detention Sphere, bring in other Dissipates. Now, I would almost definitely do that if they are playing Bonfire of the Damned. I would probably do that. Now, here's something that I did against the Jund deck. Don't do this every time, right? Okay, so I brought in the Dungeon Geist for the Azorius Charms. That was easy, right? And I didn't have these in the deck at the time, but I would still do. I don't remember. I don't think I had these. I think I still had these in the main. But he was playing around Syncopate. He was playing around Syncopate very well. He was always leaving mana available. He was always playing around Syncopate. And so what did I do? I just took out Syncopate. I was like, well, if you're going to play around it, then I'm going to let you keep playing around it. I'm just going to take it out, and I'm just going to bring in my Counterflux. And the purpose behind that, the counterfluxes are there for the control decks, of course, but I just did this because I figure it's a hard counter, right? Because they play around Syncopate until they think they've got you. You only have 3 open, and they can pay 3 for a Thragtusk, and so they just cast it, and you have more hard counters. I did that against him. Now, I can't tell you to do that against every player ever, but if they're playing around Syncopate, and they're really playing around it, then take it out. Then there's no point. I mean, it's done its job, and they're not going to think you're going to take it out, right? So it's going to keep doing its job, and you're just going to board it out. So that's how I would. But other than that, the main deck is awesome against Jund. I have a very good matchup, I think, against Jund. Now, the Junk Planeswalkers deck with the Lingering Souls and the Thragtusks, Angel of Serenity, and then Planeswalkers, I've only played against it once, and that was in the finals of the game day. And I just kind of obliterated him. I just brought in all my counterspells, basically. Against him, I just took out, like, these. I took out these 4. And I just brought in 2 more Dissipates, 2 Counterflux, and Dungeon Geists. I think I took out this, and maybe the Unsummons. Can't remember what else I took out. But I just brought in, like, infinite counterspells. I just decided I was going to counter every single thing he did. And it worked out really well for me. I ended up dominating pretty hard that game. I don't really know if that's correct. Like, I haven't played against it enough. But the Junk deck, it seems like you just want to counter, like I said, everything they do. You need to counter their Lingering Souls. Then you need to be able to counter when they top deck it later. Counter every Planeswalker you can. I just brought in all of this. And I just called that a day. So, I hope that's right. I don't really know. But that's how I board against the Jund Planeswalkers deck, the one time I played against it. With 4 Color Frites, again, it's all about the counterspells. And it's also all about this graveyard removal, to a degree. You just have to be able to get it early. So against 4 Color Frites, this is the first time I'm taking out Pillar of Flame. Against Jund, I forgot to mention this, against Jund, if you don't see any Stranguru Geists, if you don't see any Borderland Rangers, if you don't see any Planeswalkers, you can probably take out some Pillar of Flames, if you need to. I don't recommend doing it all the time, but it is a card that you could take out against them. Against the 4 color deck, I'll probably just take out my Pillar of Flames. Everything else is basically good, except maybe the Azorius Charms. So I would maybe cut 3, so if I was playing against that deck, I would cut 3 Azorius Charms for 2 of those, so there's 3, and then 4 Pillar of Flame, and there's 1, 2, 3, so I guess you could leave in 1 Pillar of Flame, or you can bring in like your Thought Flare finally, something like that. The Pillar of Flames are just not as strong. Searing Spear you still keep up, they're Centaur healers. And Thragtusks and stuff, but the Pillar Flame just don't really do anything against this 4-color Reanimator deck. And your big thing here is you just can't tap out, because like on turn 5, they could go Desperate Ravings, and then bin the Angel and bin the Unburial Rites, and then just flash it back and just burn you and just kill you. So you have to be careful about that. Counter spells like Crazy, and some Purify the Graves, maybe a Thought Flare. You don't have to bring in the Thought Flare necessarily. You could. I mean, it's good, but it's not like critical. But this is how I would board against the... Yeah, because against that match, I mean... Like, some people, I don't know, I was thinking about talking about each of my matchups and like how I play against them, and I'll do that a little bit, but like, every matchup is really the same. You just counter everything they do, and then and then you let your Geist beat down. Basically what I do every time. And then I finish with this. Okay, so that's how 4-color Rites goes. Bant Control. Now, Bant Control is one of the only decks that I've like lost to when we both had good draws. You know what I mean? Like, I had the mana screw issues and blah, blah, blah. But Bant Control was a deck that I didn't play very well against. I didn't really know what I was doing as well against them. I boarded out incorrectly. I boarded out my Unsummoned. Shouldn't have done that, because you have to save your guys from their wraths, right? So against Bant, again, it's all about the counterspells. Now, against this specific Bant player, I actually took out my Syncopates, because he was playing around him too well, and so I just cut him. So there's 2. And then I would start cutting Pillar Flames, maybe. No, Azorius Charm. Azorius Charm before Pillar Flame. Right, so that's 4, this is 3, 4, 5. So you have 1, so definitely Thought Flare as well. I would bring in these 5. And then you could bring in, see, Dungeon Geist, I don't know that I bring in Dungeon Geist, because even though it taps down their Thragtusks, they just have Angels and they have so many Wraths. It's just, Dungeon Geist isn't really what you want to be doing. You just want to bring in a million counterspells as well. Again, like you always do. And then basically against them, Geist's Saint Draft is where you have to be. Now, in this sideboard, you have to watch out. In this sideboard, they're going to bring in Geist's Saint Draft. So you have to be ready for that. So your opening hand, you have to be able to deal with a Geist's Saint Draft, either with your own, which sucks, but you could do it, or with Essence Scatter. You just have to be able to deal with it. So maybe if you're on the play, maybe you keep the Syncopates in. You can keep the Syncopates, maybe cut like 2 pillars or something like that. But you have to be able to deal with that Geist's Saint Trap, because I had them stick one against me, and then they just played my deck against me. They just bounced not bounced, but they just killed everything, countered everything, and they killed me with Geist's Saint Traps. That was awful. Bant Control is really tough. You have to. This is where this deck shines as a mid-range deck, because you have to kill them before they can get their huge mana. Because as soon as they end of turn a Sphinx's Revelation and you can't counter it, the game is over. That's what happened to me. He was finally able to squeeze out a Sphinx's Revelation for like 10 or something. It was unbelievable. And he just crushed me with it. That's where you have to really understand what's happening with your deck and really understand what you need to do against them. And that comes from playing it and from watching this video, I guess. And now the beloved control decks, the real control decks, blue-white and blue-white-red. I have to tell you that is probably this deck's second best matchup. John, I feel really... John can still get you sometimes. They can just get these stupid nut draws. But the blue-white... I've never lost to a control deck with this deck. It's just awesome. It's just unbelievable. I mean, against the control decks, I just bring in more counter spells. That's about it. I mean, and then I just take out the same thing I always take out, basically. I take out the Azorius Charms on like a pillar. Like, I bring in these 4 right here, and I would just take out these 4. Like that. Boom. There you go. Oh, Essence Scatters as well. I made this mistake last time, too. I left in my Essence Scatters. So I would cut the Essence Scatters, I bring the pillar back in. Sorry, guys. And I bring in this. 2, 4, 5, 2, 5. Yeah. So I'd do that against the control decks. And then these, you want to just start throwing at their face. And that's what I started doing as early as possible. Like, I played against the game day, right? And like turn 2, what I did, turn 1 I played a tap land, turn 2 I played an untapped land, and then I played a tap land again, so I had a red open, and I just threw a pillar at his face. And I just did that. I knew that Jace existed, but I just didn't. I just want to start killing him, and it worked. I killed him. I mean, it was awesome. So that's how I would board against the control decks. The control decks it's a really good matchup for you, I think. Now, last but not least is our good friend, the Mirror. The Mirror is probably the matchup I'm most afraid of, because I've never played it. But in the Mirror, man, what do you take out in the Mirror? Okay, so they're going to have a bunch of counter spells. You're going to have a bunch of counter spells. So Counterflux seems really good, because they just can't counter it, right? So I would probably make that switch. Probably take out Detention Sphere. It's not doing anything in the Mirror. And you could bring in maybe like 2 Supreme Verdicts. That seems okay. Yeah, because you want to be able to charm their dragons. I might board something like this for the Mirror. The Mirror is tough. I've never played it. I don't know exactly what I want to do against it. I know that it's probably kind of like the Delver Mirror, and it kind of goes in phases, right? Like it's Geist phase, and then Angel phase, and then Hellkite phase, sorta. I mean, yeah, because like the first person to take a Geist is gonna win. I mean, more likely than not, if they can protect it. End Returning Angel is always sweet in the Mirror. And don't be afraid to counter those, guys. Like, I don't know. Well, sometimes. Because in the Mirror, right, like, they don't have a lot of other threats. They could hit you with a Hellkite. That would suck. But, like, in the Delver Mirror, remember how you could threaten? You could be, like, Angel the end of your turn because you could untap and, like, slam a Sword of War and Peace and just crush them if they countered it. But that's not... this deck doesn't do that, right? So, like, if they cast an Angel end of your turn, probably just counter it most of the time because they're not going to do anything more scary than that. They have 2 cards that are scarier than Angel. Well, I guess they Geist as well, but assuming you've moved past Geist. Yeah, this seems like what I would do for the Mirror, but I could be wrong. And I would accept comments in the section in the comments in the section down below. Yeah, whatever. You know what I'm saying. That seems like what I would do. Whew, believe it or not, that's the end. We got all the way through all the matchups I can think of. If I missed one, leave a note in the comment down below, and I will try to comment on it. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this format. A couple of those were pretty improvised there. I mean, I know the deck pretty well. I understand it fairly well, but I don't have like strict sideboarding guides like these 4 out every time and these 2 in every time. I tried to give you a feeling for how it feels to actually be in the moment and when I'm actually playing against those decks, especially the Mirror, right? I didn't think about it beforehand deliberately because I wanted to see my thought process for how I would think to sideboard if I was playing the Mirror for the first time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you watch further videos, and please leave comments and let me know what you think down below. Give me some feedback. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.